Are we done with scripted videos? Like, has that gone out of style or is it not working on YouTube anymore? I'm starting to wonder about this because I've had some feedback, which I'll share with you, and I've thought of a few reasons why it might be time to toss the script and try going unscripted with your video creation. I've done it for my last several videos just to kind of test my theory, and I can't say I've had any real data yet come back on it to say that it's a better way to go, but I have had people tell me that they prefer this kind of video where I'm just having this sort of conversation with you rather than kind of going through a very obviously scripted format. Hi, I'm Rob, by the way. I work with founders and consultants and service business owners. And usually when I start out with people who want to build a YouTube-powered business, put the power of YouTube behind their business with a trust library of videos and an evergreen pipeline of leads, because that's how YouTube works, usually we start with scripts. Because people are not accustomed to being on camera, and there are challenges to work around with that respect, or in that regard, to get them comfortable enough to speak on camera that they can actually get through creating a video. And I still think that's a good way to go to get started. If you're a beginner, you've never done it before, I think it can really help you get a feel for how the creation process works. But I also am starting to wonder, is it time to just pretend you're having a conversation with a friend about some of the topics that you should be covering? And I do think it's coming off better for some viewers. And so I'll get into some of the reasons for that. One of the big ones is perfection, generally speaking, the kind of perfection that comes with production value, the editing, all of the fancy effects. That value really is going down very rapidly in the age of AI. And it's just because it's a supply and demand thing, right? It's economics 101. The supply of really well-polished content has shot way up. It's become accessible to everybody. And so more of it is out there flooding YouTube and other platforms for that matter. And so that brings the value down. It's not special anymore, so it's not worth as much. And I have to wonder if it earns the trust. Like that high production value used to be a trust signal. It used to be a sign that people were really putting effort into things, and therefore the audience would trust that you might do a good job with whatever business you were promoting or whatever the video purpose was. And I think that really is changing. I think that's part of the new digital environment, the evolving digital environment that we're in. So there's a pretty good reason to try giving up a script and doing this more conversational style video. Give it a shot and test it at least. And in doing so, that kind of proves your mastery of your topic, to be honest with you. I think that anybody can put a script together, especially with the help of AI now. Anybody can put a script together that covers all of the important topics that might be worth talking about in your particular niche. It's very easy to do within seconds now. But AI doesn't have your life experience. So only you can share a story about something that has shaped your experience and shaped your expertise that you now share with your potential customers or your audience. So I think that, again, in terms of earning trust, having that ability to just turn the camera on and speak about your area of expertise does prove that you are, in fact, an expert at what you do. There is some value in that. Not to mention the simple fact that it saves a ton of time, right? Like you're not having to sit down and write the script and edit the script. And yes, I know AI, I just mentioned you can do that in seconds with AI, I know, but you still need to kind of put your own spin on it to make it come off well to your potential customers, your target audience. And that does take time to get your unique message built in and then get it to look good if you are putting some production value into the video that is the end result that you will post to YouTube. So you save all of that time. And I think that especially for people who are running businesses, the more time you can save, the better, right? I think that's certainly the way it works for me. And then it also lowers the barrier to just press record, because a lot of people will look at that time that it takes and go, oh, well, I've got a full calendar today. I've got 7 meetings. I've got to get out. I've got to travel, or whatever it might be. And so it's easy to put off making that video that serves to build up your trust library on YouTube and build that foundation that people keep coming back to experience what you have to offer. If you never start, it never gets built and it never gets working for you in that evergreen way that eventually it does once you do have that foundation built. So to be able to sit down and just press record and go, even if you can do it without worrying, as long as you can do it without worrying about making mistakes, and fill it in, like you're going to have your ums and your ahs and your stutters, just like what's happening with me here as I sort of think through what it is I want to say. And that's okay, because it's human. It's human nature. And I think that just adds to the relatability of the video. And another good reason in my mind to go script free. You don't write a script when you sit down and talk to your neighbor having a barbecue out in the backyard. So see how that works for you. Give it a try. Another reason to give it a try without a script. And it also really builds confidence. Like once you do it once or twice, the script becomes a crutch, for lack of a better term. I think it does. You become reliant on it because it's just the easy way out. And the fact of the matter is, if a potential customer asks you a question in real time about what it is you do, you're not going to go script that out. It's not going to happen the same way as you're not going to script a conversation with your neighbor in the backyard. You're just going to share what it is you have to offer, and probably you're going to have a story or two about something similar that potential customer is experiencing themselves. And those are the kinds of stories that you can share on any kind of video that you decide to create. And frankly, I think it just earns trust better than any corporate talking points. And talking about sharing stories, I spent a lot of years in corporate communications environments. After I left journalism, I got into communications and marketing roles. And the way the system is built, or was built for many, many years, was to control the narrative of the company, right? There were certain people who were designated spokespersons, and there were fixed messages that they were allowed to share with the public. And, reporters, traditional media, that kind of thing. They stayed in a very tight lane whenever they were speaking. And I understand why. Like, there are advantages to that when you're running a company, especially if you're in a private corporation where anything a CEO says can have an effect on the stock price or whatever it might be. But there's also something to be said for establishing some relatability. And there are social CEOs these days, right? There are well-known CEOs, like Gary Vaynerchuk is probably the best example of a social CEO, because he runs a media company that sells social media services. And so you see him everywhere, and he is very open about what he talks about. But there are others, right? Richard Branson is one. Bill Gates even shows up on my LinkedIn feed now and again. Like they are out there, maybe not necessarily producing their own content. And some of it does look like it probably is covering some talking points, but they're out there and they're making an impact, and at least making the effort to be there, to be in that space. But Gary Vaynerchuk for sure is probably the one that shares with an open mind and unscripted the most, and that's a good example, I think, to follow. And then there's a lady I'm connected with on LinkedIn who was for many years a television news director, and she talks a lot about how trust has eroded in that industry, and how it's been very difficult for those institutions to earn it back. They just didn't adapt to this new environment. And I think part of the adaptation is being able to have these conversations. And one of the things she said that struck me in a recent post that she made was the audience for those television stations, they didn't want a broadcast anymore. They wanted a relationship. And a lot of people, I think, still look at YouTube and think, oh, well, it's just a digital broadcast platform. And it really isn't. It really isn't the way it's meant to serve the viewer. It's meant, and that's the reason it has a comments section, right? Is you can start a conversation about a particular topic in a video and carry that on with your audience in the comments. And by the way, if you have some comments to share or some questions, please feel free to leave them here for me. I respond to my comments because I can. I've still got a fairly small channel, and I like interacting with the people who enjoy what I produce here. So please feel free to do so. So I think it's worth a try. Drop the script. And there are ways to sound natural with a script, don't get me wrong, and I've got another video on that. I'll put that right up here for you to check out next if you really want to do that and if you're interested in that. But do give it a try without a script. I do think it's going to be worth your while. I'll see you in the next video.